Hello everybody and welcome back to Certifact Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. We'll be giving you all the first appearance hitting your comic shops today. Now this week we got a pretty good lineup for you guys. I think we have 3 first appearances, 4 honorable mentions, so 7 titles on to go through. There's definitely some books in there you guys should consider for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week ending September 26, 2025. First up from DC Comics, Detective Comics number 1101. This features a possible first cameo appearance of the Lion, a character mentioned in the solicitation of Detective Comics number 1103 as Gotham's newest villain. Now, like we always tell you guys with these possible first appearances, you definitely want to get confirmation that this is indeed the first full appearance or the first cameo appearance before you pick these up for your collection. Because if this is not the first cameo appearance of this character, this one here may not be all that important. This character here is mentioned in the solicitation of issue number 1103, and this here is issue number 1101. So theoretically, the first cameo appearance could be in issue number 1102. We really don't know. The book hasn't hit the shelf yet, so we really don't have confirmation yet. But this here is the possible first cameo appearance of this new character. You know, Detective Comics, this title series, this here is one of the tentpole series for DC Comics, probably one of the most popular and most heavily collected title series that DC publishes. So the fact they're introducing a character into this title series, that does give it a little credence. But like I said, you definitely want to get confirmation that this here is indeed the first cameo appearance of this character if you do choose to pick it up. Like I always remind you guys, first cameo appearances are not necessarily as important as the first full appearances, so also take that in consideration as well. But this one here, in my opinion, is definitely worth a spec. Like I said, Detective Comics, this title series, incredibly popular, heavily collected, so you don't want to miss a cameo or a first appearance. So this one here, in my opinion, is probably worth picking up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. Next up from DC Comics, Wonder Woman number 25. This features the first appearance of the Matriarch, a harbinger of death. Now, like we always mention to you guys about the first appearances in DC Comics, you know, DC doesn't have the cinematic power that Marvel Disney has. So bringing these characters to the screen, getting a lot more eyes on them, is not something DC can really do all that easily. So they really have to rely on good storytelling and word of mouth to bring some popularity to these characters. With all that being said, this character is being introduced into the Wonder Woman title series. This is definitely not one of DC's stronger or more heavily collected series. So the fact they're bringing this character into this title series, you know, this one here may not be all that important. It is a first appearance, but like I just mentioned, there are a few factors that might be holding this character down. So this one here, definitely going to be speculative. You know, DC Comics aren't really all that expensive. $3 or $4 maybe worth specking on. You know, you definitely don't want to have to pick this up later on for a lot more money. So it may be worth a spec at the cover price, but definitely going to be speculative. So if you can, grab this one here for a spec. And finally, for Marvel Comics, Death of the Silver Surfer number 4. This features the first appearance of Kelly Coe as the Silver Surfer. Now this is one we do think you guys should pick up for your collection. Anytime they introduce a new character as the Silver Surfer, these are books you definitely want to own. This here is the first appearance of Kelly Coe as the Silver Surfer. We really don't know how far Marvel's going to take this particular storyline or take this particular character into the future. But you know, you don't want to miss out on these. Like I said, anytime they introduce a new character as the Silver Surfer, these are definitely worth picking up. If for nothing else, just for a spec. So this one here, in my opinion, is probably worth picking up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. And now for the honorable mentions. From Image Comics, Skinbreaker number 1. This is an action epic from Robert Kirkman that tells the story of a people on the verge of collapse and their fight for survival as the many threats they face close in for the kill. Now we put this on the list because this here is a title from Robert Kirkman. He also wrote Invincible and The Walking Dead. So anytime he's involved in a new title series, these are definitely worth keeping an eye on for option potential. You know, Robert Kirkman, of course, has already had a lot of titles optioned for small screen and big screen projects. So like I said, anytime he's involved in a new title, definitely worth keeping your eye on. This one here, in my opinion, has great potential to be picked up an option. And like I said, this here is a new Robert Kirkman title, and this here is a premiere issue. So in my opinion, probably worth picking up. Grab this one here for a spec. Next up from Image Comics, Viking Moon number 1. 20 years after Leif Erikson's doomed expedition to Vinland, a new band of Vikings returns to North America only to discover that the real threat isn't the natives, but the bloodthirsty werewolves that haunt the land. Once again, another story that sounds like it can lend itself easily to a small screen, big screen project, and Image Comics has had a lot of their titles pick up an option in the past. You know, werewolf stories and vampire stories right now are currently out of favor, but you know, these are very cyclical. Every 15 or 20 years or so, vampire and werewolf stories come back, captivate the public attention for about 10 years, and then kind of disappear again. So very cyclical, so just because it's not in favor right now, doesn't mean it won't be in the future. This one here, in my opinion, is another one that has great option potential, definitely worth picking up for a spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. Next up from IDW, Street Sharks number 1. This here is the premiere issue of a 5-issue limited series that revisits the mid-90s animated series. Now we put this on the list because this here is a premiere issue of this title series that is based on the 90s cartoon. Any of the new titles today that come out that are based on 80s and 90s cartoons, in my opinion, they're definitely worth picking up the spec on. They're definitely going to be speculative because you are specking on people having an interest in this in the future. Anything that draws on the 80s and 90s nostalgia right now is definitely going to appeal to collectors in their 40s and 50s. So in the future, they may not be as collectible, but they definitely will be right now. But this here is a premiere issue of this title series based on the 90s cartoon. In my opinion, another one that's definitely worth a spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. And finally from IDW, The Twilight Zone #1. Now this here is going to be an anthology of stories, but we put this on the list because this here is a premiere issue of this Twilight Zone title series. You know, the Twilight Zone, incredibly popular television show back in the 50s and 60s. Don't really know how it's going to resonate with fans today, and definitely don't know how important it's going to be in the future. But this here is a premiere issue of this title series. Once again, it's going to drum up a lot of nostalgia, but the collectors for the Twilight Zone material are definitely going to be a little bit older, probably in their 50s and 60s. So this one here, don't really know how important it's going to be in the future, but you know, Twilight Zone, an iconic IP, an iconic brand. So the fact that this here is a premiere issue of this title series may be worth picking up the spec on. Grab this here for a spec if you can. So there you have the 7 titles we have for you guys this week. There's definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.